nowadays you got to have that confidence because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. So it's been a couple of days since the All Ireland Senior Football Championship victory for Tyrone, who beat Mayo by a scoreline of 214 to 15 points to win their fourth All Ireland Senior Football Championship to date, and their first in 13 years, and the first for the management team of Fergal Logan and Brian Dooher, and the first for, well, every Tyrone player who played on the pitch that day. Cathal McShane's first All-Ireland, Dereck Hanneman's first All-Ireland, Conor McKenna as well, Noel Morgan as well. Every Tyrone player winning their first All-Ireland. And what a huge victory it was for Tyrone, and what a terrific performance it was. I rewatched the game this morning, and you'd have to say, like, the effort, the commitment, and just the tactical display as well from Fergal Logan and Brian Dooher in particular. And this is the fan reaction show where we look at all the reaction after the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship final. We'll be having a look through a number of tweets from fans, ex-players, media, journalists, as well as having a look at some of your lads' comments over on some of the recent YouTube videos, the match reaction and the live watch along stream and whatnot as well. We'll be having a look at some of your comments over there as well, and we'll also be discussing Joe Brawley's article over on the Irish Independent because, look, listen, first of all, at the start, I didn't really want to discuss this because I know what he's trying to do. He's just trying to, gain clicks to his article. He's trying to get people talking, and it is working because here I am speaking about it. But I do think at the same time, it is important to really shut that down and be like, look, listen, that is not true what he's saying there. And the reason why he's saying that is to try and drive clicks and try and get people speaking about him rather than, Mayo or that final itself. So we will discuss that a little bit briefly later on. But of course, first of all, if you are new around here, if you could hit the like button and subscribe. If you do enjoy the content, I do very much appreciate it. Getting very close to 2,000 subscribers. So, if we could hit that sooner rather than later, I very much would appreciate it. And the All-Ireland Championship and the inter-county season now is officially over. But the channel will still keep going. We'll have a number of podcasts out reviewing the final. There'll be a tactical breakdown of the game coming out on Wednesday. Team of the Years as well. There'll be a podcast out in a couple of weeks grading every county from A to F, and we will be discussing the club championships, of course, that have started up. A lot of them have already started up, a couple of them still waiting to get started. So we'll be looking through the club championship further down the line as well, giving some preview and predictions as to who could win, the various provincial club championships, the All-Ireland Club Senior Football Championship as well. So the GAA season might seem like it's over with the inter-county season being over, but actually we really are only getting started now with the club championship. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And if you're excited for it, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and let's get straight into it. So the first tweet we have here is from Ray Boyne at Analysis GAA. Learnings from Tyrone, all technically top players, all physically very well prepared, mentally tough, tactically very disciplined, team first, and the beauty is in the simple, here's how I'm going to beat you, I'm going to outwork you, that's it, that's all there is to it. And it's a very, very easy way of looking at it, and definitely in many ways you would have to say, like, Tyrone really did outwork Mayo from start to finish, and I think that was something that was probably most impressive about Tyrone. And I think Tomas O'Shea even said it in commentary late on in the second half and even in the first half as well. It did remind you a lot of that old school Tyrone, the way they would swarm men around the ball, they would make it so difficult, they would hound you, they would really make life tough for you, getting 3, 4, 5 players all around one Mayo player at a time, whether it was Matt Ruan or Ryan O'Donoghue who was driving forward, and that was something that was very impressive for Tyrone. But I do actually think the way Tyrone mixed up their play, and that's something I really noticed from rewatching the game this morning, was the way they changed up their game, the way they changed up their play. They could kick it long at different stages as well. Like, they started kicking the ball a lot longer in the second half than they were in the first. In the first half they were pressing up quite a lot on Mayo. They had a man-to-man press. It wasn't like they were playing a blanket defence or anything like that. They weren't even playing a sweeper in the first half either. And that did cause a couple of problems for them. Like Mayo had a couple of joy in the first half, if you remember. Mayo were running in behind Tyrone, like Ryan O'Donoghue was causing all sorts of problems. They were winning frees, and that was obviously how Mayo started the game a little bit brighter, going 2 points up early on. So, like, and for Tyrone in particular, the way they could switch up their game plan, like in the second half, they crowded their own D area, they crowded the square, and they just didn't allow Mayo to have any goal chances whatsoever. And then they forced Mayo to try and kick from distance, and that didn't work out either. So, like, the way that Tyrone were able to switch their game plan from different stages of the game, the fact that they used Noel Morgan almost as a sweeper in the first half as well. There was one time where he caught a long ball and then hit it what must have been almost the entire length of the pitch, from his own D area. Obviously, Conor McKenna flicked it on. Darren McCurry had that chance and it was saved by Robert Henley. But incredible stuff really from Tyrone, the way they were able to switch up the way they played at different stages in the game as well. If they had to kick it long, they would. Hand passing, short, kick passing from distance as well. Very, very impressive stuff from Tyrone. And like what Ray Boyne says here as well, they did outwork Mayo very well, especially in the second half. And I think that was definitely one of the critical factors that landed Tyrone this All-Ireland Championship win. Tyrone GAA says, welcome home. And then you've got a Tyrone flag there beside it. Also a Polish flag, but we get what they're trying to do. Thank you to everyone for the unbelievable welcome at O'Neill's Healy Park. We are the All-Ireland champions. And there is a few images on screen there of the welcoming at Healy Park today as well for Tyrone winning the All-Ireland. And yeah, brilliant to see the welcomings as well, and obviously the homecomings and whatnot. Obviously we didn't get any of that last year, so brilliant to see this happening now, and hopefully we're very much going forward rather than backwards with this whole COVID situation now, and hopefully next year we can see even bigger homecomings, we can see full capacity stadiums, and we can see Gaelic football and hurling, camogies, ladies football being played as it should be played. No water breaks. Let's get rid of that. Let's really move forward now with this, because what a cracking year we've had in GAA, and let's hopefully continue forward and make it even better next year. And yeah, brilliant for Tyrone to get their homecoming really well celebrated, and a huge achievement for Tyrone. And I'd say the parties in Tyrone have been absolutely brilliant over the last couple of days, and I'm sure they'll continue on for a couple of weeks to go yet, because it's phenomenal achievement, and I'm sure there will be a pocket of Tyrone fans who were probably too young when their county last won an All-Ireland in 2008. And I suppose, like, for Tyrone fans in particular, obviously as the years went on in the early kind of 2010s, and you were wondering how long could Tyrone go without winning an All-Ireland, because it wasn't until 2018 that they won another one. They were getting to a couple of semi-finals, they were here or thereabouts, but they just couldn't get over the line against the Kerry or a Mayo. And then 2021 comes along, new management, and they find a way to do exactly that. They beat Kerry and then they beat Mayo, they win the All-Ireland. And fantastic achievement, and very well supported county, and very well deserved All-Ireland win. Daniel Smith says these two just propelled Tyrone to an All-Ireland title, and you'll see an image on screen there of Colin McShane and Conor McKenna. I mean, how old is that photo there? You must be going years back. Back when Conor McKenna, I presume, didn't play in the AFL, and Colin McShane certainly just making his way through the Tyrone club football and under 20 scene or minor scene there as well. I mean, I'm sure some Tyrone fans can let me know in the comments down below how old that photo is, but yeah, mad. And I think one of them, I even made a video at the start of the year discussing how Tyrone could actually win the All-Ireland. I always felt that they did have a bit of a chance this year, and one of the main reasons why was because you had Colin McShane coming back from his injury, and you also had Conor McKenna as well, in the team. So you had both of them playing for Tyrone at senior football level for the first time, and I thought it would cause absolute havoc for teams, because you've got two top class footballers, two of the best footballers in the country. You have Darren McCurry, who really stepped it up this year, and you have a lot of just really hard working Tyrone footballers, and it just really created a perfect sort of mix of brilliance from this Tyrone side. And although Colin McShane probably didn't come back from injury as quick as I would have expected, he still made a significant impact. Came off the bench, got a goal against Kerry, came off the bench and got a goal against Mayo, and it's quite incredible. Colin McShane could win an All-Star, and he might be the first ever footballer to win an All-Star without starting a game in the Championship. I don't know if that's ever been done before. Let me know down in the comments below. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But that would be something else. And he is in contention. He really is, because he made a massive difference coming off the bench against Kerry, and he made a massive difference coming off the bench against Mayo. And Conor McKenna as well. He didn't score in the final. and as one of the commenters in one of the YouTube videos said, like, he didn't have his best game. He missed a couple of chances, missed a free, hit 2 wides from play from what I remember as well. So it wasn't his best game, but he did have a very big impact on the game because he had that forward hand pass for Darren McCurry, and I think that is one very impressive thing about this Tyrone side, was they weren't letting previous misses or, you know, bad situations, bad periods in the game affect them. They always stuck to the game plan, and it really did come true when they eventually went on to win the game. Tomas O'Shea says, great win for Tyrone. Doherty and Logan have done a brilliant job. Totally deserved. Mayo had their chances. Brilliant semis and final. Last day working with RTE and enjoyed it with the great Ger Canning. And yeah, you know, it was, I think Tomas O'Shea is probably the best pundit on RTE in my opinion, and I do think the combination of him and Ger Canning works brilliantly, and it's something that we really should have seen more of. I think they're like the best commentators in my opinion of the RTE panel, and obviously Tomas O'Shea is going to Offaly next year, so I'm not too sure what his situation is. Obviously he won't be working with RTE from what he says here, so that's a massive shame. But yeah, you know, and like what he said there, like Logan, Fergal Logan doing an absolutely brilliant job there, well deserved. Mayo definitely did have their chances. You know, they had their two goal opportunities, one from Jordan Walsh, another from Tommy Conroy as well. So, or Brian Walsh, I should say, actually. He was the one with a chance. Jordan Flynn obviously came on late on in the game as well, but it was Tommy Conroy, Brian Walsh with the goal chances. 2 half kind of goal chances. Tommy Conroy's goal chance was certainly a bigger one, and they had their opportunities, they had their chances, but unfortunately Tyrone were the far better team in the day, and that really is just how the sport works. Tyrone were better. They took their opportunities. Mayo didn't. O'Donoghue obviously missed the penalty as well, and it was 2 goals. The 2 goals, essentially that won the All Ireland for Tyrone. And that does seem to be Mayo's downfall down the years. Like, they lost the All Ireland final last year by the exact same scoreline. The 2 goals again. You think of the 2 goals they conceded against Donegal. You go back to 2016 and the 2 own goals that day as well. Like, goals just seem to be the real sort of big problem for Mayo down the year, and you thought they had it fixed in the first half. They didn't really concede any goal chances at all, other than that Darren McCurry chance. But then in the second half, as we've seen, once Tyrone copped on to that, the long balls were causing problems for Oisin Mullen and for Robert Henley. They got their joy out of it, and that was the key difference on the day. Dara O'Brien says here, well done Tyrone, defended brilliantly, took their chances when they got them. People already muttering about curses in this pub in London. Mayo just had too many wides, nothing supernatural about it. Yeah, I suppose first of all there, Tyrone did defend absolutely brilliantly, in particular in the second half. I thought in the first half they did struggle a little bit at different stages. Ryan O'Donoghue was causing a couple of problems, Tommy Conroy as well, even Kevin McLaughlin at different stages. Mayo were winning a couple of frees, and they did have a bit of a joy in the first half. But in the second half, absolutely fantastic. They really defended very brilliantly after the Colin McShane goal, and then obviously the Conor McKenna overhead pass into Darren McCurry as well. So they defended absolutely brilliantly from there on in. They crowded, their own sort of 30 meter yard line. And that was very impressive stuff from Tyrone. Mayo couldn't get the goal opportunities that they needed, forcing them to kick from distance, and that obviously didn't work either. In terms of the curse and all that, like, a lot of we'll get into some YouTube comments. A lot of people talking about the curse at the weekend, and I do understand. Like, Ryan O'Donoghue has that penalty and he misses by, there's centimeters in it. He hits the post. And then 4 or 5 minutes later, Tyrone get a goal. And yeah, fair enough. You could look at curses. You could look at this. Personally, I just don't believe it. I really don't. Mayo did have chances. Because even after that goal, Robert Henley. So after the Tyrone goal, for example, Robert Henley has a 45. Kevin McLaughlin gets a point. It's a 2-point game. Like, Mayo are still in the game at that point. It's not over. And even after the Darren McCurry goal, it felt like the nail in the coffin for Mayo, but there was still someone in the game. There was only 3 or 4 points. I never felt like Mayo would turn it around, but I think blaming curses and all this supernatural stuff, personally, I just don't believe it. I think for Mayo down the years, and look, listen, we'll discuss this on another day because it's it's a long drawn out topic, but I think sometimes it's just a bit of bad luck. I really do. And I know that's probably an easy sort of way to look at it, but hitting the post and all that, that's not a lack of application. That's not a lack of belief. It's just, I don't know what it is. I really don't. And yeah, it's a very tough topic to speak about, in all honesty. And I suppose we won't tackle it today because I do think the narrative should be Tyrone were the better side and they were fully deserved of the victory. GA Joe says Brian Dooher has become the 12th man in GA history to win Sam Maguire as a player and as a manager. He is the 5th man to have done it as manager and captain, an out and out Tyrone legend. Absolutely, I mean, what an influence he has brought to this Tyrone team. Obviously himself and Fergal Logan and the entirety of Tyrone's backroom team. I mean, unbelievable stuff from Dooher and from Fergal Logan, there's no doubt about that. And yeah, what a huge achievement for him to come in on his first season and win, you know, winning All Ireland. I mean, it's such a tough thing to do. You consider the COVID situation as well, not how badly they were affected. I mean, well, that was a big, you know, something they had to overcome as well. But just in general, like the whole COVID situation, not having much time with the players on the pitch, not being able to kind of get those ideas out there, a very shortened league. It was always going to be tough for new managers coming into counties during a COVID year, especially when you hadn't managed them before. Obviously, Brian Dooher and Fergal Logan have done a lot of work at underage level, so they do know a lot of these players already. But still, very, very impressive stuff from Brian Dooher. And then you think of the COVID situation that happened to them with Kerry. I mean, at one stage they were kicked out of the championship. At one stage they were withdrawing from the championship, and then they went on to win it. I mean, it's just it's incredible stuff. And Brian Dooher, I mean, what a footballer he was as well. I mean, as a Dublin fan myself, when we were coming up against that Tyrone team and you seen Brian Dooher terrorising us like he did in 2008, I mean, what a top class footballer he was. And yeah, what a victory, what a win, what a day for Tyrone. Denise Johnson says, what a powerful image from yesterday's All Ireland, an amazing game, rightfully won by Tyrone. And you'll see the image on screen right there. It's Peter Hart and Kevin McLaughlin both with their kids there. And obviously the caption, it's sport at the end of the day, and the photo is from Dara Brennan. Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? That's what it's all about. And sometimes you see, people, and we'll get on to Joe Brawley in a moment, and people going mad about this and that, and criticising people and going absolutely mad. Like, it's an amateur sport at the end of the day. These lads are voluntarily playing this game, and like all the criticism about Aiden O'Shea, like it's just so poor. It's very salty, it's very bad. I don't like to see it, coming from all sections of the country, even Mayo supporters as well. Like, fair enough, you're entitled to criticise a lad, you're entitled to say, okay, maybe he shouldn't play, maybe he should be an impact sub from going on to next year. But saying, like, it's his fault that Mayo didn't win the game, and it's this and it's that, and, he should never play for Mayo again, and all this stuff, I just think it's very poor, in my opinion, to really sort of be going in on someone who essentially did not have to play on Saturday if he didn't want to, because he's doing it out of the love for the game, for the sport, and for his county. And I think people should not forget that, and I don't think it doesn't just apply to Aiden O'Shea, it applies to players all across the board. I don't think you can criticise players in the same way in Gaelic football as you do in other sports, for example. Fair enough, in other sports those players are being paid, like that's their job, that's their profession. In Gaelic games it's not that. So I do think people need to remember that. And all the criticism about Aiden O'Shea and some of the other Mayo lads, I just think, get a grip. Jeremy Connolly, remember him? He says Hampsey man of the match, best team, took home the piece of tin, congratulations. Yeah, Hampsey was absolutely unbelievable, wasn't he? I mean, he kicks that wonderful point with the outside of his right boot early in the first half, and that was an extraordinary point for Tyrone. I think that levelled up the game at that point and put it 2 points to 2. That was incredible stuff from Padraig Hampsey. He plays that long ball into Cathal McShane as well, like to have the awareness to spot Cathal McShane in that space and to put the ball in such a perfect area, like it was in between Mullen and Henley. It was a perfect ball, and McShane gets the flick. Hampsey was absolutely brilliant defensively as well, top class footballer, and yeah, man of the match. And I suppose the real question is he in contender for Footballer of the Year? He definitely gets an All-Star in my opinion. Is he a contender for Footballer of the Year? Maybe Kieran McGeary, maybe Darren McCurry are ahead of him, but I think Padraig Hampsey definitely in contention in my opinion. Gillian Murphy here, and this is really just following on to what I was saying earlier. I've never in all my years involved in GAA seen an individual player scrutinised as much as Aiden O'Shea is in every match. He is one player, he's only human. He has given so much to Mayo over the years, and as a gentleman off the pitch too. A quote for the keyboard warriors. Yeah, we won't include that quote there because it is quite long. And yeah, we won't include that on the screen. But in terms of this tweet in general, yeah, I completely agree. And I suppose we should get on to Joe Brawley really, and some of the things he's been saying after this game on the Irish Independent. I mean, very baffling comments, and once again Joe Brawley coming out with his annual column that he seems to do every year after Mayo lose an All-Ireland final. And like, I didn't want to speak about this originally because I didn't want to give him attention. I didn't want to, there's probably some people that probably don't even have social media and don't even know what he was saying, and I didn't want to give him that attention and that luxury. But I do think at the same time it's important to kind of set the narrative straight. It's important to say that, why does he keep doing this, and and all this, because it's all about driving clicks, isn't it? It's all about driving clicks. It's all about, it's all about driving clicks. It's all about clickbait. It's all about people to talk about it. It's all about discussion. And in some ways it's right, but what he's saying, in my opinion, is not true. Like he says in the Irish Independent, we'll get a couple of quotes on screen, "No more excuses, please, from football's greatest time wasters." And I just think that is just such a very poor, it's a very hurtful comment, and I think it really does rub salt in the wounds of Mayo, who have given so much down the years, not just to their county, but to Gaelic football in general. I mean, where would Gaelic football be without Mayo? Like that. Like, let's be perfectly honest. How are they, football's greatest time wasters? I just don't agree with that whatsoever. Like, you've some counties, some big traditional counties down the years that haven't got to an All-Ireland final in years. Like, you think of Meath, haven't been to an All-Ireland final since what, 2001 I think it was, or 1999 last time they won. I think 2001 the last time they were in a final. They haven't been to a semi-final since 2009, and I'm not hating on Meath by any stretch of the imagination. Very good county, a lot of good young lads coming through, doing great work at the moment with the ladies football team as well. I'm sure they will come good now over the next couple of years, but for a long time there, a lot of problems going on behind the scenes with Meath and all the rest. And you look at counties like Cork, who have a huge population, far bigger population than Mayo. Mayo don't have the biggest population compared to other counties, but yeah, they're always there getting to finals. And I think that, I think that should be appreciated. And I think to say they're time wasters, and he goes on to say here, a lot of other counties would give their right arms to be here. The people of Mayo put their heart and soul into their team, and this is what they get. A manager on the sideline making choices based on political considerations. I mean, what on earth does he mean there? Political considerations. I just don't understand that terminology. I really don't, and maybe someone can let me know down in the comments down below. He also goes on to say, a protected captain who does not lead and never will, substituting Padraig O'Hara in the 51st minute after he had surged forward to win a free inside the Tyrone half and had been taking the game to Tyrone, leaving passengers on the field. And you actually have to pay for the article to read the rest, and I certainly would not recommend to do that in any way whatsoever. So yeah, in terms of the in-game decisions, I would agree with him actually about that. I do think substituting Padraig O'Hara was a poor decision, in my opinion. I don't understand that. I thought it was an injury at the time, in all honesty, because it did quite baffle me that he was taking him off. I thought he did have a good game, and I think he was a player that you could push further up the pitch and make something happen. I think the decision to bring on James Carr far too late in the game, in my opinion. I think he could have had an impact. He could have created some extra space. He probably could have took Aiden O'Shea off again. Like, I think he was winning a lot of ball, and physically he was causing problems for Tyrone. But I think late on in the game, he wasn't the man to be kicking points from distance. He needed someone with a bit more pace. He needed someone to create a bit more. So I think probably he should have been taken off with about 15 to 20 minutes to go, especially after that Darren McCurry goal. He brings Aiden on with 5 minutes to go. Young lad obviously coming through, a lot of potential. Apparently been doing very well in training, and only his second ever senior game. Again, bringing him on with 5 minutes to go. If you're going to bring him on with 10 minutes to go or 15 minutes to go. Let him settle into the game, you know what I mean? So I just didn't really agree with some of the big decisions there from James Horan. He got a lot of praise after the Dublin game, but I do think in this game he made a couple of things wrong. His substitutions were far too late, in my opinion. I think he should have pushed Lee Keegan further up the pitch as well. I feel like he's a player that can make things happen in an All-Ireland final going down the home stretch. So I would agree with that to a certain extent. But in terms of Joe Brawley's terminology, in terms of the way he's gone after players, and apparently he did go after Aiden O'Shea as well in the rest of this article. I don't have any quotes from that, but just very poor stuff as well. And to say they're time wasters and all the rest, like, just don't agree with it. A lot of other counties would give their right arms to be here, was something else he was saying that we were just talking about. And yeah, like, the people of Mayo do put their heart and soul into the team. But, you know, they love it. They love getting to finals. They love the occasion, and it's a sport at the end of the day. Like, Jesus, like, you know, you're saying, and this is what they get. I mean, it's a sport at the end of the day. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of Mayo fans would agree with me in saying that this is, this is a load of rubbish. And a comment coming in here from Digger. He says Joe Brawley's piece on the final is particularly vicious even for him. He talks about GAA ethos to true Gaels, and this is the level he goes to when talking about amateur players. It's so personal and it's nasty. Yeah, absolutely. You know, just very poor stuff, it must be said, from Joe Brawley in my personal opinion. Like, I just think, you know, fair enough. You're allowed to criticise Mayo. You're allowed to say, oh, you know, they should have gotten further forward. They should have maybe changed the plan. James Horan should have done this, or etc. etc. Like, you're allowed to criticise that. Like, fair enough. It's all free speech. But I think just being so personal and nasty and going really deep into Mayo, I just think is very poor. Like, he came out with an article after they beat the Dubs. He was talking about the reason why Mayo won the game was because now they're a team and now they're playing together. They're playing as a team together. And I just think, like, what? You lose to Tyrone and then all of a sudden it's... I just don't agree with it. He said, what did he say last year? Celebrity culture. He said, you know, he's made all sorts of remarks down the years that I don't agree with. And yeah, you know, just crazy stuff really from Joe there. And we'll get into some YouTube comments over on the match reaction. Sometimes there are a lot of long comments there and I don't get a chance really to respond to them in the form of text. So we'll start reading out some of these comments and some of these videos, and then, you know, we can respond to them from there. So Pádraig Farrelly, very frequent commenter on a lot of different videos and tweets and whatnot. He says, very poor analysis from a lot of GAA media. Tyrone beat informed Kerry. Mayo beat not playing well Dublin all year. I had Tyrone to win Sam. Colin McShane should win his second All-Star award. Very influential. Okay, in Ulster final. 2 key goals beating Kerry and Mayo. Aiden O'Shea will be an impact sub for Mayo next year. His game has fell apart. He also goes on to say Tyrone have never retained an All-Ireland, so a huge incentive for them. Full forward line next year. McCurry, McShane, Canavan, Donnelly and McKenna will be around midfield, half forward area. Rest of Tyrone team is very good. And yeah, and he also says Hart could be Tyrone captain in 2022 or 2023. Yeah, very good comment there from Pádraig. In terms of the very poor analysis from a lot of GAA media, I mean, I'm not too sure if he's speaking about myself there, but you know, I tipped Tyrone to win the game as well, and it was quite surprising that Mayo were going in as massive favourites. And I think Pádraig is spot on with a lot of what he says here. Like, Tyrone beat an informed Kerry, Mayo beat a Dublin side that were extremely poor. And you do forget that if Davy Byrne clears that ball in the final few minutes, if he just gets rid of it, Dublin would have won the game. You know, Robert Henley wouldn't have had the 45. There was still a couple of minutes left to play, but, you know, that chance wouldn't have happened, you know. So you can look at all the different facts and figures, and you know, Mayo were probably All-Ireland favourites on the fact that they'd been to the final last year. They'd won the league in 2019. They've been to so many finals down the years. But I think when you look at this year, I think Tyrone were the better side all year. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion. And yeah, I think Peter Hart being captain is a very good point. And also about Tyrone winning back-to-back All-Ireland, something they've never done before. And, you know, that would be mad, wouldn't it? Because I think a lot of people would probably still look at the Tyrone team in the 2000s as better as this current Tyrone team. I think a lot of Tyrone fans would agree with that. You know, Peter Canavan, Owen Mulligan, Brian Dooher, Stephen O'Neill, all these guys, Sean Kavanagh as well. But if this Tyrone team go and win back-to-back All-Irelands, fair enough, the other Tyrone team has 3 All-Irelands, but then you're thinking, I mean, is that a bigger achievement? Is this team better? You know, and that creates a very interesting topic, in my opinion. Another comment coming in here, Mr. Potato said, I think Mayo thought winning today was a formality and underestimated Tyrone. Tyrone's game plan and composure on the ball was incredible. Noel Morgan gave a masterclass, literally dictated the game's tempo from goal. I don't think the Mayo senior football team underestimated Tyrone, in my opinion. I think the fans definitely did. I was seeing on Twitter, I was seeing a lot of posts as if Mayo had already won the game. You know, even in my preview, I got a lot of people going mad with the fact that I tipped Tyrone to win the game. Even though I did say I wanted Mayo to win the game, but I don't think people heard that, or they just didn't want to hear it. I do think the fans probably underestimated Tyrone to a certain extent. In terms of the team, I don't think they did. I thought, you know, they came flying out of the traps early on. They probably did underestimate the fact that Tyrone do have the ability to change their game plan if needed. You know, they can kick it long. They're not just about sitting back defending. They don't just play a blanket. You know, this isn't the Tyrone side of the mid-2000s or anything like that. Like this Tyrone team can change their play. They can change their plan. And to be fair, actually, the Tyrone team in the 2000s could do that as well. Like they did do that on numerous occasions. And I think maybe it's an easy narrative to look back and think, oh, they were just a defensive team and that's why they won 3 All-Irelands. Absolutely not. You think of Owen Mulligan, you think of Canavan, Dooher, Stephen O'Neill, some of the best players to ever play the game. So don't quite agree with that sentiment either. And I think, you know, maybe they did underestimate them to a certain extent. But, yeah, you know, you can't take anything away from Tyrone in winning this. Wide Boy, he says, I mean, at this stage, there is something psychologically wrong with the Mayo team. For example, Aiden O'Shea has been in 7 All-Ireland finals and scored in none of them. Like, it's just sad at this stage. Well done, Tyrone. You clearly wanted it more. Yeah, I'm not too sure if this commenter is a Mayo fan, but it is an interesting topic, and it's certainly something maybe we will delve into at another point in time. You would, you know, when you say something like that, it's very hard to argue against it. Aiden O'Shea in 7 All-Ireland finals and he's never scored. I mean, it's not all about scoring, and it's not all, you know, his quality isn't that. But it is still interesting. He is a forward and he hasn't scored in 7 All-Ireland finals. And it is quite baffling, that statistic. And I think the statistic really of the fact that they've lost, 8 All-Ireland finals now in the last 10 or 11 years or something like that is nothing short of remarkable. I mean, it's crazy. There really isn't another story like that in sports. I think the only thing you can really compare it to is maybe when Liverpool were coming close to winning the league and seemed to always let it slip, as Stevie G said. I'm a Liverpool fan, so yeah, you know, not a great moment. The Boston Red Sox in baseball, they were another team. You know, there was even expressions made about, you know, the Boston Red Sox will never win a World Series was almost something trendy and something people used to speak about all the time. And ironically enough, both of those two particular sporting organisations that I spoke about ended their long wait from the owners of the same people. Fenway Sports Group actually own both of those two sporting organisations. So yeah, you know, and maybe FSG need to take over Mayo. I couldn't see that happening now, but yeah, that'd be an interesting one. But yeah, you know, and there's nothing quite like it in sport, and you know, it's I've made a number of videos on it down the years. I've discussed about it a lot. I've researched it a lot because it is just such a fascinating story. The fact that, you know, they've come so close down the years and can just never seem to get over the line. You know, they can beat Dublin, they can beat Kerry, they can beat the big teams, but they just can't seem to do it in All-Ireland final day. And is it bad luck? Is there something more? Is it this? Is it that? Realistically, we'll probably never know until some of these Mayo players retire and write a book or something like that. Maybe then we might start getting more answers. But it is incredible, it is crazy. But I do think Tyrone, you know, you can't discredit them in any way whatsoever. Like, they were the better team, they were brilliant, and that's the reason why they won and Mayo lost, because Tyrone, far better defensively, far better going forward. They had the better forwards, the better midfield as well. Brian Kennedy, like, let's speak about him. Probably one of the most underrated midfielders in the game. Picks up a yellow card early on and then is unbelievable for the rest of the game. Doesn't put a foot wrong. Reminded me a lot of Brian Fenton, actually. The way he was keeping it simple, playing it from side to side, picking out a couple of passes here or there, a couple of driving runs. Like, he was fantastic. Definite all-star for me as well. Con Kilpatrick, brilliant as well. Like, you have to mention him. So, yeah, brilliant stuff from Tyrone. But anyway, lads, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Do leave a like and subscribe. If you haven't already, let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the game and this video, of course, as well. And there will be a podcast out tomorrow as well, the review show. Myself and John McMahon of the JMac podcast will be discussing this in further detail, really breaking the game down, and it'll be about an hour-long podcast. So yeah, available on Spotify and all audio podcasting apps for free, so you can check that out as well. So yeah, do check all the content out, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you later.